Good morning everyone, Tater here, welcome to Tater Games. Today we are actually talking about a new game that I've just spent the last 4 days making, which is great, but tiring. So we're going to talk about it, go a little bit deep into the process of making this version of an IO game, which is significantly different to the previous one, and whilst the intro is playing, I'm going to sip a coffee. Boy oh boy am I tired. So if you guys want to play, you can go to eggle.io, that's EGGL.io, and of course Egglio is the shortened version of that. So if you decide to play, thank you very much for playing the game, and for those developers out there, if you want to learn about that, you keep subscribed to this channel because we're going to talk and make tutorials about that. Similar to Ghost, we are still going to make tutorials for Ghost, but unfortunately we're not going to work on that game anymore. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Right now you guys just need to know where you can send me feedback, which is the comment section down below. I read all your comments, guys. They're all great, they're all constructive, and also you can go to the Discord channel, which has another little channel or tab there called Eggs. So before we get started on anything else, I'm going to teach you how to actually play the game. You are a random bird of sorts. There are 3 to select from. There are kiwi, there is of course the duck, and there is of course the main character, which is the chicken. There are these seeds scattered across the world of Egglio. You can of course go and eat the seeds and then return to your base and lay your eggs. You can only really lay your eggs inside your own zone. Every time you lay an egg in your zone slightly expands. You see, people can go and squash each other's eggs. If your eggs are further away from your nest, then there is a higher chance that they are going to end up squashing it without taking any real risk. What are the risks, you ask? Well, if you are in your zone, you can actually kill other players. If you enter your zone, you'll see that you go red. Whenever you are red, you can kill another player. So your enemies will only go red in their respective zones. The idea of the game, of course, is to try and dominate the entire map with your zone, climb the leaderboards to get to the #1 spot, and of course, take out other people's nests to keep them down, man. Keep the man down. Fight the power. If you attack somebody else's nest, you actually steal their eggs, and the eggs are spawned straight back in your zone in a random location. You don't want to place all your eggs in one basket, or else other birds can actually come and steal all your eggs in one fell swoop. So you want to spread them out a little bit, or maybe you do want to keep them all in one spot so it's easier to defend. If 2 zones collide, then both players will be red, and both players can actually kill each other. The nest can be spawned anywhere, so be very, very careful about leaving your zone. Every time you leave a zone, somebody may spawn within your zone, and then of course they can go and take your eggs and increase their zone and decrease your zone. Those are the rules for now. The next update is going to change it completely, but for now I just wanted to kind of release something for you guys so you guys have something to play or something, or I can make a video so you guys know I'm not dead. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to reveal the game to you guys, and now we're actually going to talk about a little bit more about the process similar to Ghost, and then of course we're going to do another video later on about comparisons between the two, including how to make Eggle or Egglio, however you like to say it, how to make it from scratch to finished kind of product. We'll get into that very, very shortly. Right now we're going to go deep into the process of making an IO game, kind of part 2. And we're back, and slightly sharper than we were 5 minutes ago. Right, so obviously I made Ghost and I made Eggle. Ghost and Eggle, so many differences, and I think personally Eggle is the better game, which is surprising because one took 4 weeks to make and the other one took 4 days, and it's amazing how much work I actually got done within 4 days in comparison to the 4-week quota that I set myself for the previous game. Remember, we're talking about IO games here, they're not complex games, and I think that's where these two really differ. Eggle, basic concept, basic artwork, basic everything, no music, none of that stuff, and it looks and plays and it functions really, really well in my opinion. Ghost.io, surprisingly more complex than anything I've ever made, including Skyroar. There were so many problems I ran into with making this version, and the Eggle one was just flawless and just perfect, and there were many bugs in Ghost, and there was very few bugs in Eggle. Who would have thought that simplicity would overpower complexity? This all started with the very disappointing analytics of Ghost.io. The main problem with Ghost was that nobody could play with each other because there were different regions there were all these kind of nooks and crannies and stuff like that. There were sometimes 2 people on at the same time, or 3 or 4 people on at the same time, but they were all on different servers and they couldn't see each other, they couldn't connect to each other. It was just a mess. I thought changing regions for ping was actually super duper important, but now we're creating such a simple IO game and there's only one region and there's only one server. So learning to balance ping and making sure that everybody is synced up really nicely was a major step within this development. When it came to Ghost, there was no stuff like that. So Eagle took a lot of work into the networking side of things, and obviously the rest of it didn't really matter because gameplay is quite core there. I mean, if you look at the biggest IO games, Agar, Slither, even the ones that aren't fully networked, like Paper and Goons, they all have one thing in common: really polished, simple looking games. And within the first 2 days, I actually completed the gameplay completely. It took about 3 weeks in order to get Ghost's sort of gameplay sorted, and then to get all the other assets sorted. It was just tirelessly me trying to draw certain things that didn't look right. So I'm so impressed and I'm so pleased with this new version, and I hope a lot of you guys are too. So that covers a little bit of the thought process of complexity. It's really important for a simple game to look simple, act simple, be simple, but have complexity within it. And of course, because it's a multiplayer game, a lot of the complexity within the game actually comes from behaviors of players. The version I actually put up was made a day ago, so technically it only took 3 days to make the version you guys are going to play, but there is an update already lined up. I'm just trying to perfect it so that everybody gets a good, version of it to play. So Eagle, I have a feeling, because I'm making updates before I'm releasing the game, that I'm actually going to work on this quite heavily. So there's going to be a lot more updates in the future. I'm going to keep these videos rolling out, and because there are decent updates, I can actually teach you guys how to make what I'm updating and stuff, and keep you guys in the loop, It's really cool. There are a few other points that I want to point out about the differences between these two games, plus, of course, making both of them, So a lot of people wonder what I'm actually using. I'm using Photon. Photon is one of the best multiplayer sort of SDK type things that you can get. I love it. It's perfect, and I've learned so much about it within this process. And one of the great things was actually Ghost kind of led me to making the Eagle game. So everything that I used in Ghost was kind of incorporated into Eagle, and it was great because I failed when I was making this game, and this game I just flew right through it. All the simple stuff that you kind of get problems with, for example, setting up rooms, creating the networking side of things mainly. When it came to Eagle, I just flew right through it, and I didn't even encounter many problems. There were about 3 problems, and most of them were client side, which is great. It means I'm getting better, and you guys get to share on the journey and learn a little bit more when I start to explain it to you guys. Of course, I do want to kind of release, they're not going to be tutorials, they're going to speak very broadly about it. As I say, I don't really like tutorials. They're great for beginners, but once you get to a certain point, you need to start learning things yourself. You need to start going in there and making mistakes. It's a lot easier to learn from those, through experimentation than it is to actually learn from a tutorial. But we'll save that for a later date. I've already ranted about tutorials for minutes on end. The artwork uses primitive shapes, which was really good. There is no music on it, and this was a deliberate choice. I noticed that Slither and Agario don't have music at all, and I love it. It doesn't need music to actually function correctly. No sound effects, basically no sound entirely, and there are only really 9 or 8 things that you need to know to be able to play this game. Like, when I say functions, there are about 9 or 10 functions. In general, there's not much to talk about. The game is so simple. All I can do is sort of teach you about the scripts that go into it, the networking that goes into it, and how you need to kind of think to get past these networking errors that I get a lot of messages for. A lot of people say, this networking is not working. Why isn't it working? But for almost every message I get about networking, it's the same kind of problem. They're not thinking about it in the correct way. It's not that they can't do it. It's not that they don't know what commands to actually input and stuff like that to make the entire script. It's just that they're not thinking about it the correct way. There is a specific way that you need to think about making networked games. And for the sake of it, I'll just talk about it right now. A lot of people think that. A lot of people think that they're trying to make everything move at the exact same time. You need to have client-server kind of mentality. So the server just acts as a means to send data across. You don't want to send a whole bunch of data explaining positions and all this type of stuff. You just want to send the bare minimum when it comes to networking. In Eagle, there are only 2 things that are sent through the network. The rest is all client-side. Everything that you see, every movement that you see is done by your character. The only things that are being sent through the network are the position of every player's mouse and, of course, eggs. Whenever you spawn an egg, it doesn't even say anything, it just sends a position. So it's legitimately 4 numbers, which is a very small amount. And compared to Ghost, every time you shoot, you sent something. Every time you moved, you sent position updates. And of course, there were other stuff like the barrels being sent through, the scores and stuff like that being sent through. All of that in this game has actually been handled by the server. So server handles point systems and stuff like that. In Ghost, it was clients sending data to everybody else saying how many points that they actually had. This is what I mean, you learn a lot from making mistakes, so I'm so glad I made Ghost. It was an amazing experience and it taught me everything I needed to know to be able to make a good IO game. And I went and I listened to your guys' feedback. You thought I'd use that feedback to improve Ghost, instead I actually made another game. So one of the biggest things that you guys said was, I wish I could change my name, I wish I could find more players. And I think a few people actually mentioned UI issues, which was like certain things just didn't look right. Well, I took all of that into account and I've been trying very, very hard to make it look good, to make it feel good, to make it feel natural, and I smoothed everything. It's polished. It's really polished. Which is cool because I basically spent 2 days making the game and 1 day polishing it for what you guys are going to see, and then I spent another day creating this update, which will be available soon. There's still a few bugs and kinks that I need to get rid of, but it will be available very, very shortly, and hopefully you guys end up going and playing the game, and I hope to see you on there. But that's basically it, guys. Thank you guys so much for the Ghost feedback. It really helped me a lot, and hopefully I get decent feedback for this one as well, so that I can improve upon myself and things like that, and hopefully then I can teach you guys about all the flaws in everything I've ever made. As per usual, if you want to follow me, you can go to Facebook or Twitter or Discord. All links should be in the description below. Of course, Twitter, I'm going to start releasing update sort of logs and stuff like that so you guys can see what I'm working on. And Facebook, I'm just not doing anything, so don't follow me on that. This coffee is really waking me up. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace, ciao, or later. You choose.